The rain was merciless that evening, pounding the streets with a force that felt almost personal. Water cascaded down rooftops, rushed through clogged drains, and splashed against the ankles of pedestrians scrambling for shelter. Among them was a frail elderly woman, her thin frame nearly swallowed by an oversized coat that had long lost its battle against the storm. She clutched 2 paper grocery bags tightly, their soggy bottoms threatening to give way with each step. Her shoes, soaked through, squeaked against the wet pavement as she tried to hurry, though her body could no longer move the way it once did. Each step looked like a struggle, a fight not just against the storm, but against time, age, and loneliness itself. As the world rushed by, people shielding themselves with umbrellas, taxis splashing through puddles, strangers lost in their own urgency, no one seemed to notice her. She was just another figure in the blur of a rainy city evening. But then, out of the rushing crowd, someone did stop. A young man, no more than 25, paused mid-stride. He had no umbrella, his hair plastered to his forehead, his jacket dripping water, but his eyes were steady, fixed on the woman as if the chaos of the storm didn't matter anymore. He saw her bags tearing, her trembling hands, her quiet desperation. And in that moment, he made a choice that would change more than just her night. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and the power of second chances, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness. Your support helps us bring more real, heartwarming stories to life. He rushed over just in time. One of the bags split, spilling apples, a loaf of bread, and a jar of jam onto the flooded sidewalk. The woman gasped, her body bending forward in defeat, but before she could crouch to gather them, the young man was already there. Kneeling in the cold rain, his hands scooped the groceries with a gentleness that surprised her. He didn't speak, not yet. He simply looked up at her, his dark eyes offering something she hadn't seen in a long time, care. The woman's name was Eleanor. She had once been strong, vibrant, full of laughter. She had built a family, raised 2 children, worked tirelessly to keep food on the table. But time had chipped away at her life, piece by piece. Her husband had passed years ago, her children had moved to other cities, and friends she once leaned on were now gone. She lived alone in a small apartment, her days quiet except for the television humming in the background. Trips to the grocery store had become her most significant outings, small reminders that she still had a purpose, still had life to manage. But tonight, with the storm beating down and her groceries slipping from her frail hands, she felt a crushing sense of weakness. The young man introduced himself as Daniel. His voice was warm, steady, and reassuring. He picked up the groceries, repacked them into a sturdier bag he happened to carry, and offered to walk her home. At first, Eleanor resisted. She had grown used to doing everything herself, had trained her heart not to expect help. But the rain was relentless, her body was weary, and there was something in Daniel's sincerity that melted her defenses. So she nodded, softly, almost ashamed at her own need. The walk to her home was not long, but the storm made it feel endless. Daniel shielded the bags from the rain as best as he could, letting himself get drenched instead. Eleanor walked slowly, her breath shallow, her steps cautious on the slippery pavement. Daniel slowed his pace to match hers, never once rushing her. As they moved, he told her small pieces about himself, how he was new to the city, how he worked odd jobs while searching for something more meaningful, how he often thought about his late grandmother, the woman who had raised him when his parents could not. Eleanor listened quietly, her heart tugged by the familiarity of loss, the quiet bond of shared grief. When they finally reached her building, she hesitated at the door. She wanted to thank him, but words felt too small compared to what his kindness meant. She invited him in, just for a moment, just to dry off. Daniel accepted, though he didn't expect much. What he walked into, however, broke his heart in ways he hadn't anticipated. The apartment was small, dimly lit, and nearly bare. The furniture was old, the shelves lined with dust, and the air held a loneliness that even the warmth of the heater couldn't erase. On the kitchen table sat a single plate, a single cup, as if the entire home had forgotten the joy of shared meals. Daniel helped her set down the groceries, but his eyes lingered on the space, on the silence that seemed louder than the rain outside. Eleanor, noticing his quiet, tried to brush it off with a weak smile. She said she was fine, that she managed. But Daniel could see the truth, the isolation, the emptiness, the quiet battles she fought every day. That evening, what was meant to be a small act of kindness turned into the beginning of something larger. Daniel didn't just leave after setting the groceries down. He stayed. He made her tea, insisted she sit while he put things away. He told her more stories about his grandmother, about the little lessons she taught him about life and kindness. In return, Eleanor found herself sharing pieces of her past, her children's laughter, her husband's devotion, the dreams she once had for herself. For the first time in a long time, her apartment echoed with conversation, with human connection. In the days that followed, Daniel began visiting regularly. At first, it was small things, helping her carry groceries, fixing a squeaky door, changing a light bulb she couldn't reach. But slowly, it grew into something deeper. He became her companion, her friend, the grandson she never had but always longed for. Eleanor, in turn, became a source of comfort for him. She listened when he felt lost, encouraged him when he doubted himself, reminded him that even when the world feels cold and indifferent, love can still be found in unexpected places. Yet, beneath their growing bond, there was an unspoken truth. Eleanor was aging. Her body was fragile, her health quietly slipping. Some days, her hands trembled so badly she could barely hold a cup. Other days, she grew tired so quickly that walking across the room left her breathless. Daniel noticed, and though she tried to hide it, he understood. He knew their time together might be limited, but that only made his presence more intentional, his care more unwavering. One evening, months later, the rain returned. Not as fierce as the night they first met, but steady enough to stir memories. Eleanor sat by the window, watching droplets race down the glass. Daniel joined her, placing a warm blanket over her shoulders. She smiled at him, her eyes soft with gratitude. She whispered that she had prayed for years for someone to notice her again, for someone to remind her she still mattered. And on that stormy night, when she thought she would collapse under the weight of loneliness and rain, Daniel had appeared. The moment was quiet, but powerful. Two souls, from different generations, bound by compassion, filling the empty spaces in each other's hearts. Eleanor's loneliness was no longer a prison, and Daniel's search for meaning had found its answer, not in grand achievements, but in the simple act of caring for another human being. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please support us by liking, sharing, subscribing, and leaving a comment on Kindness. Every small engagement helps us spread more stories of compassion and humanity to those who need them most. And before you go, we have one special request. Speech balloon, please comment below. Kindness lives on, to let the world know you believe in the power of small acts that change lives. That night, as the rain continued to fall outside, Eleanor no longer felt the storm pressing against her spirit. For the first time in years, she felt safe, seen, and valued. And Daniel, though soaked once more by the rain, carried something far greater than groceries that night. He carried hope, the reminder that kindness, even the smallest act, can transform two lives forever.